Hey guys, welcome to the podcast. I'm really excited to show you guys today's episode because Jabber is someone that I really look up to in a way, especially when it comes to asking for advice. He is someone that will always give me an informed and insightful and a very valuable perspective on what it is that I am deciding. Of course, he just graduated from chemical engineering, so he's my senior. So we do talk a lot about the course and what it offers us. But this episode is also about giving your course a chance even if it seems like you don't like it at the start. Sometimes all it takes is a new experience so that you can put a different lens on the way you see things. And maybe just with that comes a host of new appreciation for what you're doing. I love this man for the sake of Allah, and conversations with him are always filled with gems that takes me time to think about. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share. Alright, without further ado, Mohammed Jabber. When are you leaving Malaysia?
So what happened with me is I was supposed to leave in 4 days, and unfortunately, the airlines company had some problems with their authority and some company directive or what I don't know. They informed us like a few days before that it has gotten cancelled, and there are no flights for that particular airline. No flights until the end of this month, which means I'm pretty much here for until this end of this month, and we'll see when the next available flight is, and we'll book accordingly, inshallah.
But I mean, it's not like your ticket got burnt, right? Like they just carried it forward.
I'm sorry.
It's like you didn't have to like pay for another ticket, right? They just substituted.
Oh, no, of course not. That would create an outrage from all the passengers.
Is it back to Bangladesh then?
No, so basically, because my immediate family stays in the UAE, and of course, as I might have told you before, I grew up in UAE, not really in Bangladesh.
Yeah.
So I'll be flying there and see how things go there. Currently, I'm actively seeking for jobs and stuff. So that's one of the other goals, to go to UAE besides staying with my immediate family.
Yeah, I wanted to get into that. Like obviously you're someone that's a year ahead of me, so you're my senior. So it's like I will be in your shoes in 1 year's time, you know. So like how's that going? Okay, so from what you said, your plan is to just go back to the UAE, look for a job, and just see how it goes, I guess.
That's definitely one of the options. Um, so my situation is a little different than most other, I would say, people, because of the fact that most people who do chemical engineering in Nottingham, University of Nottingham, they complete with the MEng. So I stopped at BEng, the Bachelor's of Engineering, which means that I've got two options in front of me. One is the academic route, and the second one is, of course, getting into work and gaining experience, blah blah blah.
Wait, so what do you mean by academic route?
The academic route is basically continuing on doing a BSc elsewhere, because the way I look at it is, I might not have told you, but I started in 2016 in Nottingham, actually, starting from foundation. So it's a good stretch of 4 years for me, which is pretty much the requirement of any bachelor's for engineering. So in some ways, it completes the statement that people use, that engineering should be 4 years. So that's why I'm thinking of not taking that academic route of doing a master's and giving myself a break from studies, number one. Number two, gaining experience. Number three, networking. At the same time, deciding on the best option for me. So I have a list of options, and I just don't want to make a rash decision with what I want to do in future. So I believe this time that I'll spend in working, which should be around 1 to 2 years or so, inshallah, I should be able to decide whether I want to continue doing a master's in engineering, or I want to do a master's completely out of engineering, perhaps MBA or something completely an alternative career. Or I want to continue working. You get me? So I have a lot of questions that are unanswered. So this is why I'm in this scenario. So it's a little bit different. That's all.
Yeah. What you're going through is like it almost mimics exactly what I'm thinking about right now, because I'm like, at the end of second year, beginning of third year, I have to decide whether I want to do an M-Eng or a B-Eng, right? And I'm
Yeah.
like, I think I'm in a similar situation as you, where I think I am leaning towards doing a B-Eng.
Right.
And then like, yeah, I wanted to ask you, like, have you actually run across some things that said that they needed 4 years of engineering?
Honestly, to be very honest with you, the answer is no.
Yeah.
Arguably, some people still deny this fact, but from what I've seen, most HR managers or recruiters, they don't really know the specifics behind B-Eng, you know. So what they see is you're a graduate from Nottingham. You perhaps have a first class or second class. I pray you get a first class, of course.
I mean, you did as well, right? Barakallah. I mean, sorry, not Barakallah. Tabarakallah, bro. That's very impressive.
Jazakallah khair. So that's what matters mostly, because from the interviews that I've had and from my internship last summer 2019, they haven't really focused on, or they didn't really touch upon the issue of whether your engineering is 2 years, 3 years, or 4 years. They just look at your marks and they look at your university. Now, this is what the head of the department has told me. I'm sure you know Dr. Law, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
So what he has told me is it doesn't really make a difference unless you were to get into a company, you were to progress into becoming a senior engineer or perhaps a project manager of some sort. And let's say you have to accredit a specific drawing sheet or a letter or some documents, some engineering technical documents. This is when you're not recognized.
Yeah.
So it's more about the professional qualification and the title than about working as an engineer. You get me?
And that doesn't seem like something you particularly appeals to you to go down that route, the professional route.
For now, it's 50-50. And the good thing with stopping at B-Eng is, at any moment, let's say you're working for a year or 6 months or even 2 years, and let's say you've decided that you want to become a professionally qualified engineer who gets recognized in companies, who basically the term is chartered engineer.
Yeah.
So when you become a chartered engineer, that's when, everybody respects you and they take your word for it and all of that. So I still have that option, by the way. I can complete a year or 2 years of working, working in a company, and then I can continue on doing an MSc on any particular field that I want to specialize in. It's complementary to have the experience of the field you want to specialize in. This is what I found out recently. So let me give you an example. Let's say I want to get into the energy industry. So what I do now is I finish my bachelor's and I choose a petroleum company and I get into their energy program and blah, blah, blah. I gain experience 2 years or 3 years. And then I choose to do a master's in energy or petrochemicals. And let's say the master's takes about 2 years. And then I continue on working for another 4 years. So there is a combined working time of around 4 to 6 years. So now I become eligible to apply for the so-called chartered engineering, title.
Is that the IR?
The IR is the incorporated engineering title. So the IR can be gained even without a master's, from what I found out. So for example, now that I finished B-Eng, I'm eligible to get the IR title, provided that I fulfill some requirements. So that's the good thing with Nottingham, because chemical engineering in Nottingham is accredited by IChemE, UK.
Yeah.
So this is why we have this benefit, getting those titles. So that is a huge advantage, man. Like when I read up the website, iChemie website on engineering titles and how you can progress into becoming a chartered engineer, even though you don't do MEng. I realized that it's a huge benefit to have the iChemie as your accredited body on your degree, because most other universities. Another advantage, by the way, is our degree is honors.
Mm-hmm.
So recently, I found out that people who don't have honors in their bachelors uh, um, puts them at a lower scale as compared to somebody who's done an honors.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, you frozen again. Can you hear me?
Credits and his.
Okay, sorry. Yeah,
Hello.
there you go. There it works.
I don't know what's wrong. Like from my end, it shows everything's all right.
Okay. All right. Again, so honors is better than not having honors because it shows it's lower to not have an honors.
Yeah, this is what I found out recently, and that's because a degree with honors has much stricter rules in terms of credits and in terms of the module's content itself. In some ways, it's more advanced. So we do have, I would say, an upper hand when it comes to our university and its accreditation program and the entire degree itself.
Alhamdulillah. Okay, right. I want to ask you more in depth, because I think I find when I talk to you, I find like so many similarities between me and you in that, like, when people talk to me, they don't really get the impression that I'm an engineer, in the sense that I think this is something that you possibly relate to, that we have, so many other soft skills that it doesn't seem obvious that we would be the ones that would go to a very technical minded degree. So I just wanted to ask you, because I know my answer to this, like, why did you? I felt like, okay, wait, let me just say first. I felt like when I started my degree in chemical engineering, or when I chose it, I didn't really know myself well enough to know what I wanted to study. It felt like I was just doing it. So I was just wondering, did you have that similar sort of feeling, and what do you feel now about it?
Yes, that is very true. I knew I wanted to do chemical engineering because, in the sense that I didn't like mechanical related physics, I didn't like electrical related physics, and civil somehow was undermined by everybody else in the environment I was in.
Yeah.
So particularly, I liked thermo. I liked thermal physics a lot. So besides this, I had done chemistry in A levels, which I scored really high at. So I was like, this is the direction I want to take. But just like you, I was just going along with it. I didn't know if it was the right decision. I didn't know in the long run whether I'm gonna be liking it or what. But Zarif, honestly speaking, like after my second year, second sem, when I did my internship, things turned. And
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm waiting for it to turn now. I'm expecting it to turn.
So I won't lie to you, man. I won't lie to you. Like, more people, they probably have a different perspective. They say, like, the more you study engineering, the more you know you don't want to do it. But for me, honestly, I grew into liking it. After my internship, I became more serious. In my last year, in my final year, I really loved what I did in my DPX, which is the design project, the final year project. And I grew into liking it, man. Honestly.
What was it that triggered the change in feeling?
Okay, what triggered it was the internship, hands down.
Really?
I have to give the credit to the internship, man. Like, alhamdulillah, I made a lot of dua and I made a lot of istikhara, before starting my degree. And perhaps things were taking its time for me to kind of absorb that what I'm doing, whether it's right, whether it's going in the right direction or not. So perhaps 2 years down the line, this was my time. And when I got that internship, somehow I was very surprised because not a lot of people get into this company. So when I did get into it as an international, as a Bangladeshi, it was even more surprising. So I believe this was all part of, Allah's plan, that I would choose chemical engineering. Perhaps in the start, I would think whether this is right or not, and then this internship would come, and bang, I'm suddenly like, inshallah, this is what I want to do, and I'm enjoying it. So
What
yeah.
was it? What was it about that internship? Was it like just the fact that you started to see things that you had learned, or what was it?
In fact, it was the other way around.
Okay, what do you
So
mean?
what I realized was that although I'm not using, okay, to be fair, I'm using maybe 5 to 10% of what I had studied. Um, it was the outcome of studying those modules that was helping me in my internship. So what I mean by the outcome is something like my analytical skills, my reasoning skills, um, in terms of mindfulness, all these things. Now, you might ask, how can engineering make you all this? Honestly speaking, like remembering all those calculations, all those formula, then basically it involves a lot of mathematics. It involves a lot of understanding and applying. So this is where I feel like it shaped my mind into becoming somebody who is more analytical in some ways. So
It's almost like the first 2 years you didn't realize what you were getting from engineering, and
yeah,
then once you started in that company, you were like, wait a second, I can
yeah,
do all this.
yeah. And honestly, in that internship, it turned out to be very shocking to me, because like I suddenly found myself in a very overwhelming situation where my mentor, my supervisor, he was assigning me huge projects, and he was like, yeah, it's chill, you can do it. And I'm like, yo, I'm just a second year intern, man. Don't put so much pressure on me, this is too much. But he was like, he was giving me from day one itself. He was treating me like an adult. He was treating me like his peer, like his colleague. He was allowing me to speak to suppliers directly and negotiate with them. Of course, he was supervising at the same time as well.
Yeah.
But he did give me a huge, I would say I had a huge opportunity to get hands-on into real engineering world and all that. So as I was telling you, like I didn't use much of my degree knowledge, but kind of like the outcome of it, like what my mind got shaped into, really helped me into kind of like making my internship more successful and fruitful, because I was involved in projects and I made my inputs, and there were things that, for example, I'll just give you a small anecdote. Yeah.
Yep.
So I was discussing it with a supplier on a chain lubrication system.
Mhm.
This has nothing to do with chemical, by the way. So I was
Yeah.
working as a production trainee, and that's where most chemical engineers get to go to. It's either production or process, mostly speaking. Okay. So and I was speaking, and then suddenly we reach a point where we're discussing about the oil and its specifications and this and that. So suddenly, like I start like imagining, and I start like thinking about how the oil would, how its viscosity would help in lubricating this and that. So I started analyzing these things, and I asked a question, which surprised my supervisor, and he was very impressed with it. So he was like, "Wow." So he was like, "Yeah, that's a very good question, because the lubrication system kind of like has like different aspects to it, because how it works is that there's in the production line, there's like a conveyor chain, right? So the conveyor chain rotates, and it goes through very high extreme conditions, like temperatures of well, not that high in terms of chemical engineering, but still considered high, around 200 degrees Celsius. So the oil can evaporate. This is what I was thinking. So I kind of like posed this question. I'm like, are you sure your oil can withstand this temperature, because it might evaporate, this and that, blah, blah, blah. So I was acting all, I'm a very knowledgeable person and all. And by the way, just a side note, the supplier did not know that I was a trainee. So he was he was under the impression that I'm a fully qualified engineer. I'm working in that company, and I'm full on experience and this and that. So he was like taking it very professionally. He was answering those questions, like giving me all the attention I needed. So I felt like engineering after all is not that bad, and this was just one aspect of it. If I start mumbling and rumbling over all the other things that I have done throughout my internship, there's a lot of things, and it really combined together, it came together, and it helped me to decide that, yeah, I actually enjoy doing this.
Is that what? But that almost doesn't. Okay, how do I say this? But that sounds like, but your positive experience with that came from the fact that you did study chemical engineering specifically, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to like
100%.
deal with a supplier in that certain way.
100%.
Bro,
100%.
I think my internship experience to date has been like the exact opposite of that. So in the sense that I don't really get to do anything, right? So I'm like sitting at my desk doing my own thing. But granted, one of the reasons is that it's a contracting company, and not a chemical engineering business. So I think I need to kind of realize that what I'm doing is not actually what chemical engineers do. So in a way, I'm like envious of your experience. But also it makes me quite hopeful that what I am doing now isn't all that there is to, being a chemical engineer. Because even logically speaking, there's so much I could do. But from what I take from that like, a lot of hope.
Look, I'll tell you something. Just to make you feel less envious, I actually decided not to go back to that company and not to work as a production engineer.
What? Okay. How does
Look at
that?
this.
How does that? How do you square that?
It's very paradoxical, and yeah, the reason why is because I realized that I am not the kind of person who can work in a lot of heat, in a lot of toxic, uh, kind of like the environment there was very toxic, starting
Well,
from the seniors, starting from the managers, and the way the mindset, the working culture, everything else.
what do you mean
So
in
I'm sorry.
specific? Like what sort of things comes to your mind when you say it's toxic?
So there is no growth mindset amongst people. It's about competition. It's about KPIs, who can outdo the others and kind of like be in the top three, and then kind of impress the superiors, and then make their way up. There is no concept of teamwork. Even if there is, it's not the kind of teamwork I'm looking forward to. So it's the kind of teamwork where you barely communicate with each other. You have a team for the name of the team, just for a namesake. So all of this, and then there's a lot of internal competition, and competition is healthy, but the kind of competition I saw there, it was quite toxic. And the way the superiors would teach or kind of correct the freshies, or not even the freshies, like I've seen engineers who are 2 years 3 years in that company, and they're still getting scolded in front of people, and which isn't a very nice scenario, I would say. If there is something that needs to be addressed, there is a professional way. There is you don't
Even
really
in
need to you don't really have to disrespect the person, you get me?
Yeah, it's even an Islamic way of doing it. Not to do it in public.
100%. 100%.
Uh,
So
Go on,
yeah.
sir. Go on.
So that is why I don't want to work in that company, and why I don't want to work as a production engineer again is because working in the production means you'll be 24/7 in the field, in the factory itself, which can be very noisy, can be very hot, it can be very tiring. You're limited in terms of communication and socializing, which is an important part of my work life. I should be able to have people to socialize with as well,
Mm.
along my working time. So I'm not saying socializing as in like you just skip work and you're just laughing
Yeah.
with colleagues and these things. It's just like I don't know if you've visited these multinational companies and corporate companies where you see people, they have the way they set their desks and the
Yeah.
way they sit, there's always this pleasant atmosphere. There's no kind of like this inferior, superior complexity, if you need something, you can just quickly go and pose the question, and everybody's ready to just answer and help you and kind of guide you. So that kind of, some socializing and communication.
But your negative feelings towards not wanting to be a production engineer is more specifically to do with the company itself, rather than you attribute it to the company rather than the role. I mean, the role could be different, like you said, in
Yeah,
multinational
yeah.
companies.
Mm.
Um,
So yeah, and also another thing is process engineering, as I told you, is another field that chemical engineers get into. So I had a glimpse of what process engineers do in that company itself, and I found some kind of enjoyment and delight in that particular area. So this is why I know the whole idea of chemical engineering is not bad, and I do like it. I do like designing reactors, designing distillation columns, doing software work, discussing with my colleagues on designing a plant, blah blah blah, energy recovery, heat optimization, these kind of stuff. I do enjoy it, honestly speaking, and I kind of like I would take the pride that I'm pretty good at it as well. So so the bottom line is the whole idea of engineering, chemical engineering, is not something I would
Appreciate
push
it.
away.
Okay.
Yeah, I would not push away. But working as a production engineer or going back to that company would be a big no-no for me.
But
So this is how my internship. This is how my internship kind of led me into liking engineering and knowing what I want to really get into.
Well, so once you came back, it was kind of clear. Like, what did you want to get into? Like, okay, you pushed production engineering away.
Yep.
You pushed. Yeah, you didn't say anything. I mean, process engineering. You seem to still be open to it.
Yes.
So you came back and you kind of had that. And you decided what did you want to do after? What did you decide on that you wanted to do after you got out of your
100%. Yes. And also networking. I networked with a lot of different professionals in that company who have been working there for 6 years, 10 years, some who've just newly arrived. And I got different perspectives from each of them. And I saw what kind of mindset kind of is there around me. And that networking has also helped me into knowing and making better choices, I would say, about process engineering. My supervisor himself, he's there in that company for 3 to 4 years now. I think this is his 4th year running. So he told me, I asked him, I told him, why am I studying, heat and mass transfer? Why am I studying transport phenomena and fluid mechanics when I'm really just coming every day and I'm checking, the readings and I'm reporting to you. And if there's anything wrong, if there's a breakdown, if there's some downtime, I just go there, I attend, blah, 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 this and that. So he's like, look, chemical engineering is a degree. But when you go out to work, you're no longer addressed as a chemical engineer. You're given different names that suit your role. So if you're in production, you're called a production engineer. A production engineer can be a chemical engineer, he can be a mechanical engineer, he can be an electrical engineer. And so that's how it works. So then I asked him, okay, so what role would make me utilize what I'm studying more?
Well, that's a really good question.
So then he told me that you should look into consultation companies that do more design work, companies that, and those companies are, by the way, open to freshers as well in some ways. Because I recently interacted with an MNG graduate from chemical. He's Malaysian as well. And he, mashallah, tabarakallah, he got into a very good company. And I was just, randomly, I don't know him. I just saw his post on LinkedIn, and how on LinkedIn, it shares posts of your connections and connections of your connections, like first, second, third. So that's how I came across the post. And then I texted him. I told him, I'm very amazed at your accomplishment and this and that. How did you really get into this company just 3 months after into your graduation and this and that? So not really 3 months, actually, less than 3 months. So anyway, he then shared with me his journey. So I could tell, that there's more to the story. It's not just, people who've told me, my seniors who've told me, chemical engineering, it's all group work. You're going to hate your life if your group mates are not good. And at the end of the day, most engineers just decide to do business
and accounting.
This and that. So I'm not denying what they're saying. There are people who do that, but I've seen a different picture, and I think that's not the entire story that they tell you.
What was his journey, the person that you messaged, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah, so I don't think I should disclose the name of the company.
Yeah, fine.
So basically he was in his second sem around Jan or Feb. He saw the openings of the grad program, graduate program of that company, and he started applying. And because of the pandemic and all of this, everything was online. So I don't know whether that's a good thing or it's a bad thing, but I guess it worked for him because all of his assessments, he had to go through 3 different types of assessments, and they were all online. And having done that, he then got an offer from them, and just right after his graduation, about a month or so, he started working there. And guess what?
Okay.
Guess what? He's not working as a chemical engineer, but he's working as a software engineer. That's that was shocking to me. That was really shocking to me. So, but that company, the company he is in, it's an oil company, and it hires a lot of process engineers. So I asked him, why did you go into software engineering and why not process? Because you've studied chemical and you're in a chemical company.
Yeah.
He then said that the company is recruiting young talents, and they want to reinvent the company based on how the youth think now. So this is why they're hiring engineers from any backgrounds. Condition is, as long as you're driven to learn, you have the drive, they're ready to teach you.
MashaAllah.
So, mashallah, mashallah. I learned 2 things from his story. Number 1 is, yes, companies, process engineering companies do hire grads. And number 2 is, you're not restricted to just your field.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's something that I really need to get through my thick skull, where I think you can relate with this. Like, I have this paranoia of being like too specialized too early, you know, being like funneled down into one road without being able to see what's on the next path. So it's important for me to keep my options open. So hearing a story like that is really encouraging. Yeah, which okay, one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you as well, because like you were one. Remember when I told you you were one of the people that finally like made me want to go to the made me accept that I wanted to do exchange, right? I was like, you were the
Thank you so much.
You were the turning point. I was like, okay. After I talked to you, I remember you asking me like, okay, will you regret it if you don't do it? Yes. Okay, then do it. So yeah, I'm kind of like I said, I'm kind of like in the same situation as you, where I'm deciding whether I want to do an MEng or an MSc, or do I want to go work, or like, do I want to do an and then if I want to do an MSc, do I want to do an MSc in a different subject? Do I want to do something in chemical engineering? I've just been flip-flopping, man. You know, it's like I've been looking at degrees in Germany. I've been looking at degrees in like Norway, and like looking for scholarships for like hours a day, man. I think my most recent thing is very similar to your path, where I think what I will do is try and secure a job for maybe a year or 2, you know, and actually see what working has in store for me and what the experience is like. Ignoring my internship experience, which to be fair has not really benefited me that much, other than seeing how a contracting business works. Which is interesting because we work with a couple of consulting companies like you mentioned, and they're the ones that actually do chemical engineering work. So it sucks that I'm not actually under them. Okay. So what kind of opportunities have you found so far after your degree?
What kind of opportunities? Before I answer that, can I give you a little bit of not really advice, but really something that I want to share with you regarding what you said earlier.
Yeah.
So I just want to tell you that what you're feeling is absolutely normal. So I hope you don't get too worked up on the fact that, you know, you're having so many options and you're thinking of MSc, Norway, Germany, this or that. This is absolutely normal, man. You're just doing the right thing, because a lot of people in your shoes, they are super chilled. They're super chilled, and then they realize that it's too late and they don't know what to do, and they just do whatever is in their whatever they're given. So for you, you're kind of like at least being thoughtful, and you're reflecting on what's important to you and this and that. And to help you with that, if I can share with you a few pointers, because I remember when I was doing this, I had a few things in mind. So I had a few factors that I had to rate according to what I really want. And then based on those factors, for every decision or option that I had, I would weight on that scale, and then I'd see which scores the highest.
Okay.
Okay, let me give you.
I'm gonna take notes.
No, you don't really need to take notes. It's just like something that might help you. That's all.
Okay.
I'll just quickly share with you because yeah. So you mentioned about Norway and Germany, right? So
Yeah.
that falls under location, environment. So that's one of the factors. Now I'm not giving you the factors according to any rank. I'm just giving you, the factors themselves, and then you decide what's more important to you.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So there is the location. There is the job security. How secure is that particular job that you're looking at, based on the current situation? Like, for example, now pandemic is going on. So would you think that working as a software engineer is good, or working as a flight attendant is good? I don't know. I'm just giving you random choices.
But I think my it's not exactly like that. Where I think the biggest choice I have to make right now is whether to continue studying or to start to find a job. That's where my decision lies currently.
Whether you want to study or whether you want to
find a job.
Work.
Yes, exactly.
You can't decide this. I mean, it's good that you're thinking about it, but I can tell you that you can decide this until, I would say, the first semester of your next year, meaning next year is your third year, right?
Yes.
So after you're done with the first semester, you will get a whole different idea of chemical engineering, especially with the DPX, especially with new modules like transport phenomena and all. You'll be exposed to so many different types of chemical engineering knowledge. And the more you know, the better you can decide, right?
Bro, this like the first sem of like third year seems to be like the most transformative time of a chemical engineering. I just have to get that far.
And it also depends on your circumstances. Like in 1 year, things can change, man. Things can change big time. Like for me, it did. And what I thought in my year 2, that okay, I'll be doing a master's somewhere else. I'll just apply somewhere quickly. And then what happens? Corona comes in. So you have to be flexible with all of that. So I don't want to discourage you from your thoughts, what you're thinking, but I'll tell you that for sure you can't really make a decision right now. You can only make a decision at least one semester after, one semester into your final year.
But it feels like I have to make a decision because it's like by September I have to decide whether I want to do a B-Eng or an M-Eng, right?
This is what they say, but it's not really the case for chemical engineering.
Bro, what is the secret? Why has no one told me this?
I'm not kidding, bro. I'm not kidding.
What is this? What is it?
I fell into this trap, and take it from me, my friend, he's an Egyptian. He decided less than 2 weeks before his graduation that he wants to do an M.Eng.
Okay. What? Okay. So, but the way I heard it is like the third year of Chem-Eng will be different depending on whether you want to do a B-Eng or an M-Eng.
No, that's not the case for chemical. It's the
really?
case. Yes, it's not for chemical, but it's for other engineering.
Bro, this blows my mind. Okay, that.
So you really got worked up on the fact that you have to decide it by September?
Yes, that was one of the things I was feeling was time pressure, because like I have to decide because if I don't decide, that's another year of studying.
No. With chemical, you can decide it at the end of the year. You can decide it halfway into the year. You can even decide at the starting of the year. For me, I decided in the starting of the year because I was sure that I want to do B.Eng and that I would not consider doing M.Eng in this university. I would go somewhere else, but not the same university.
Why is
that? Sorry?
Why is that? What made you not want to continue in this university?
I spoke to my seniors. I looked at the modules they have next year, and biggest factor would be for me is it's not really a postgraduate master's.
Okay, but an M.Eng you're talking about?
Yeah, it's still an undergraduate integrated master's, which means you're not still considered a postgraduate. You're still considered an undergraduate with an MNG. So this was one thing that I wanted. If I ever did the masters, I would rather do it something which is a proper postgraduate masters, and that I have two separate degrees. One is my bachelor's, and the other one is a master's.
Master's, MSc probably, or an MBA, depending on what you want to do. But yeah, Jazakallah khair for that. That is a really useful tidbit of knowledge to know. But also, like, yeah, it's actually like really helped settle my thoughts, because from what you said, I need to go through the first sem of third year to see what it's actually like. Jazakallah khair.
DPX, Zarif. Look forward to DPX. If you really take it seriously, if you think of it as if you're an engineer and you have to take this as if it's an engineering project, and you do it with that mindset, I'm telling you, you will be, for sure, you can guarantee yourself whether you want to get into engineering or not, or whether you want to, whether you want to progress into doing a master's, or whether you want to start working.
So, sorry, I don't want to get into specifics so much, but it's like, what, they give you a list of details and then a list of options, and you have to choose one, or what is it like?
What do you mean by options? Like,
as in terms of the project that's available to you?
No. So for chemical engineering, the FYP is the final year project is the DPX, right? So in other engineering, let me explain to you what DPX and FYP is, right? At first, because other engineering, for them, they're two different things. Some don't even have anything called DPX; they only have FYP. So for example, civil third year, anyone who's planning to do MNG, for him in his third year, it's said that it's not his FYP, that's his design project, or DPX. Whereas for chemical, your DPX is your FYP in third year, and again in fourth year, anybody who's doing a MNG, for them they have another FYP. So that's how it works. And so of course there's different percentages because of the number of years you're doing. So some people who are doing MNG, for them, most people who are doing MNG, for them it's different, the mark distribution, because as you know that year 2 is 30, 30 and 40. That's how it works, year 2, year 3 and year 4. For us it's 33 and 67. So besides that, you understand what's the difference between DPX and FYP, right? So in chemical they can be used like exchangeably. We can just call them the same. So having said that, for us, DPX or FYP have only one topic. It only has one topic. So we don't have a list of options. We're just told, okay, you guys all need to focus on designing, producing biogas, or looking at how to convert palm oil mill effluent. It's a waste from palm oil mills. How to convert this waste into a renewable, a marketable, and a green chemical. That's all. You're given this. You have to do the case studies. You have to read articles. You have to come up with the plant, the block diagram and the PFD, the process flow diagram, blah blah blah. And you'll be working in a team.
PNID.
Yeah, PNID is much later, but PNID will be in your second sem. So that's how it works. They just give you one topic, and you kind of have to work with 4 other people in one team and design the entire thing.
Is everyone else doing the same topic, or is it a different topic?
Yes, everybody else does the same topic.
Okay, so there's a lot of, you can do a lot of communication and like discussing with people from other groups as well.
Yes. You can. But no one will be that willing to share their ideas. That's one thing as well. Because at the end of the day, you're marked upon kind of like you're in a comparison pool, right? If some group really designs it in accordance to how it should be in the real world, of course it's going to score more than you if you don't really do it in that sense. So that person might not be willing to share everything with you unless you're very close with them and they don't mind sharing.
All right. What you've done has made me actually like looking forward to and a bit more appreciative of what actually I'm studying. So if that's the only thing I get from talking to you, then that's more than enough. You always manage to like take this, like make me feel so much more positive about where I am, where I'm going. This is a ni'mah that I think Allah has given you. Tabarakallah.
No, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah.
All right, I want to talk a bit more about you. Okay, what sort of opportunities have you found? You've been looking for a job in the UAE.
Yeah, so I have applied to different countries. I've applied to UAE, I've applied to European countries, I've applied to Australia, I've applied even in Malaysia, and even Canada, to be fair. And what I've seen is most countries are not very open to hiring internationals, especially if you're not really residing in that country.
Yeah.
And this is not realization number one. Realization number two is even with a very very good degree, even with a very good degree, they still need experience. So I'm a fresh graduate. I have literally just 2 to 3 months of working experience doing my internship.
Yeah.
Not many companies are open to that.
Even though they call it a fresh graduate program for some companies.
So, for example, so fresh graduate programs, again, this falls under the first category where I said they are not open to internationals. So the graduate programs that I've applied to, for example, in Malaysia, in UAE, in elsewhere like Europe and all that, nationality matters. And although they do specify we are very we are race neutral, we are gender neutral, blah blah blah, they still look at it because even if they don't want to be racist towards you, they won't be willing to spend on your visa, on sponsoring you and getting you in their country when there is already an existing pool of knowledge in their own community.
Yeah.
So that's one. When I say, what was my second point? Sorry.
Graduate program
marks.
only. Yeah, good marks.
I was speaking about marks. So they look at your experience. Now, when I speak about this point, it doesn't really specify the grad programs, but it looks at those job postings that you see every day in LinkedIn. You see it in Indeed.com. You see it in Olive.com. You see it in Malaysia's different graduate, application websites. When you see those, you see that they still require somebody who has 1 year of experience, 2 years of experience. So I see more of that than people with, let's say, 3 months or less than 3 months or 0 years experience. So that is second realization that I've come across having been in this job hunt. Realization number 3, which is very, very, very important, is networks. I feel you can do all the things that you want, and at the end of the day, even if you score the highest and you secure a job of your dream by applying to a graduate program, that's all well and good. And congrats to anyone who's done that. And I'm trying that as well. But if you have network, the above 2 factors don't matter anymore. So regardless of your experience, regardless of your marks, regardless of where you're from, if you know someone who knows someone else, you're good to go.
So generally, this is like especially if you know someone that's in the HR department of a company.
Yep. Yeah. So currently, these are the things that I can think on the top of my head that has really put me in this place where I have to really judge between what I want to do, and I'm actually digging through my contacts and seeing, okay, who can I network with? How can I find out? See how it goes,
But that surprises me because I would have expected you to be someone that probably networks more than most people, more than the average student in university. So it's still surprising that, I guess your advice would be to any undergraduate, just make sure you store their contact numbers to anyone you talk to in a careers fair.
Look, Zarif, yes, I agree with you. I do speak to a lot of people and I try to network with them. But when it comes to helping people, then they turn off.
Oof.
This is a very, very sad reality. So I did know someone from a very famous company, I would say, in Malaysia. And I tried to get into touch with that person. Somehow, I didn't really get a very welcoming response, and some people didn't even reply, to be fair with you, like to be completely honest. So somehow this is the sad reality. I mean, like, even after you network, there's only so much that people would do for you, and over time people really forget stuff. Like, I might be in good terms with that person, and we might have had good conversations, and that continued. But when it comes to really doing you a favor, very few people will be up for it. So that's how it is. I mean, like, I've not really, I don't get offended by it. I've come to terms with it that people, generally speaking, people have to be selfish, and people are selfish, especially in the corporate world. So there is something called you scratch my back and I scratch your back. But unless I have not scratched that person's back, he might not be open to scratching my back.
Yeah.
And what I say to that is, well, I didn't get the opportunity to scratch your back. So if I did, I would have done. And so it's not really, the world isn't fair, man. Like, even if you network with people, there's only a few of them who'd really be up to helping.
It's actually quite difficult, in a sense that, to expect someone to go out of their way for you, because it's actually a lot of time and effort that, it's really hard to blame them, because they have all these different responsibilities and commitments as well.
Yeah.
So to expect them to do something for you is like, it's only the really top people that would be willing to do something like that.
Yeah.
Are these people that you have kept in regular contact with, or is it just like
not in regular contact, but like, let's say we know each other on Instagram, or let's say on WhatsApp. So the person posts something on these social platforms, then I would reply, and we would have a chat. And yeah, generally speaking, like, if there's anything that, especially with my previous company that I interned at, I'm still on good terms with many of the colleagues over there, and I speak to them. I just chat with them on WhatsApp, or sometimes this and that. But then there's another thing about me is I feel very uncomfortable, and I feel very shy in asking favors from my network. So this could be another reason. I don't know. Maybe that is another hindrance that's really not really it's not really helping me to capitalize on my networks to the full potential, because I get really shy and I get really uncomfortable asking them, okay, I'm officially unemployed, can I get a job? But of course it's not really I wouldn't really say it in that direct manner, but still,
it's just a bit like, I think what it is like, you're afraid that they think that you're just using them to get something.
Yes, this is something that I'm afraid of, and perhaps that's what might be the obstacle in me using my networks. So I don't really know.
Have you applied for jobs in Bangladesh? Because I imagine that would be slightly easier given that you are a national.
I did apply in Bangladesh. Okay, so in Bangladesh, how it works is you don't really have these online applying online systems. Yeah, you don't really have them. It's the traditional. It's the traditional way of visiting them, and if you don't visit them, you still need to have someone who knows someone. So I did try. I'm not trying hard, honestly. Bangladesh, I'm not really trying hard because I don't want to get settled there. Having lived abroad, it will be hard for me to get settled there, and the atmosphere, the environment is completely different. And I would love to be visiting Bangladesh every now and then. But in terms of getting settled and working there, not really my first priority.
Yeah. But it's going to be difficult in the UAE, especially given the fact that it's, it has so much money that it can basically take the fresh pick of whoever it wants out of the whole world. So I guess it would be hard for a fresh graduate to find a job there. But inshallah, Allah makes it easy for you. I mean. Have you been applying for jobs specifically in the scope of a chemical engineer, or other things that is tangentially related as well?
Yes, so I'm not limiting my options. I'm applying everywhere and anywhere, basically. My my best interest is, of course, getting into a process engineering role. But just looking at the current situation and how the pandemic has really affected different industries, it might take some time for me to really find a hardcore process engineering graduate role. So, so I'm keeping myself open and I'm going with the flow. I'm flexible. I'm applying to even sales jobs. I'm applying to um, any job that doesn't really require technical non-engineering knowledge, but still they're open to hiring engineers.
Yeah. So, have you thought about, like, at which point does it? Have you kind of set a time frame? Like, if I don't get a job in this much time, then I'll decide. Then I might need to start pursuing other avenues.
That's a very deep question, by the way. It's a very deep question for me, and I'll take some time to formulate this in the best way possible. So you'll have to bear with me. So what I'm going to say is, starting from March, I think that's when the lockdown started, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, starting from mid-March, I think, yes, mid-March, and until now, basically, my mindset in choosing what to do and looking at my options. If this happens, what am I going to do? Backups after backups. I've stopped doing this, and I have now. I mean, I'm in a situation now where I have a firm belief that what is decreed upon me, there's a specific time for it, and it's on its way. All I have to do is have a positive attitude, be patient, and do what needs to be done until that specified time arrives. Okay. So if that time is 6 months after my graduation or it's 3 months after my graduation, I'll have to wait. And how I'm thinking of it is to reach to that destination or to reach to that specified time at a reasonable pace or at a reasonable period. All I can do is make dua and do what needs to be done from my end, which is trying to spend productive time, trying to gain new skills, perhaps learn a new language, read books, get in touch with people that I've really lost touch with, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of different things that I can do meanwhile. So it's not like I'm wasting time, but I'm also gaining new skills and I'm utilizing my time productively. And along the go, all I can do is make dua, and dua changes things. So let's say that specified time for me, I'm sure, I'm 100% sure, I have a firm belief that that time is there. But what dua can do is bring that time or advance that time to a time that's more suitable for me. So perhaps I don't have to wait so long. So that reliance on God, and at the same time that positive attitude, is how my current situation is. So when you've asked me the question that, oh, if this fails, then what do? I don't really have that concept. I know this is going to work. I know that the best is going to happen for me, and I will be complacent with it. I know this. It's just that I have to make dua for that to come quickly while being patient.
Okay. I completely understand that. But I think, like, for one, like, I can say, mashallah, that's a very, it's a very positive way to look at it. And I think it's probably the correct way to look at it. I probably fall on the other side of the spectrum where I probably need to have a bit more of that realization that Allah is, everything is in His hands after all. But I guess my question to that, I'm not saying that I disagree with it, but like my question with that, how does that, like the danger with, like if I were to adopt something like that, is like, I think I would question myself as to the need to even plan anything. Do you get what I mean? It's like, Okay, I can say that, what is best for me will come, and I believe that. I believe that, like,
Inshallah, yes.
inshallah. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't plan things, right? That you shouldn't have contingencies in case something fails.
Yes, yes, I agree with you on this. So when I told you the entire situation that I'm currently in now, I didn't mean that I have this belief without any plans. So
Yeah.
I do have my plans, and that's how it should be. So again, I agree with you 110%. And whether those plans will work or not, now this is where I believe you're directing towards, right? Like if they fail, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
That's what you mean, right? So how do I say this? Like for me, the concept of failing has disappeared. So I don't really look at it from that perspective that okay, if this fails, then what should I do? How I look at it is if this doesn't happen, that is the best for me.
Okay. So
If
okay, I really like that actually. Go on. Sorry.
if this option did not happen, okay, this was not meant for me, and this is perhaps the best for me. So then I have another plan. Now this is not really a backup plan. These are all simultaneous plans. You understand?
Yeah.
And I'm just making dua that whatever is the best for me happens for me. So again, just to come out of the religious atmosphere that I've built. I wanna tell you something that I came across recently, or not so recently, but yeah, previously. Is when you plan something and you plan a backup for it, you're not really giving your 200%. You're just giving you 100%, and there's a backup, so you're always going to fall down to it. So this is kind of like I don't know if this is what psychology says or it's a philosophy or what, I don't know. So your brain kind of gets preconditioned that it's all right to fail in that first option, and then you don't really give your 200%.
Okay.
Subconsciously speaking. So if you don't have any backups, it's a do or die situation. You have to make it. You have to do it. So they say that it's the best plans are the ones that don't have any backup. So you just plan ahead what do you want to do, and you give your 200, 300%. You have to make it. You will have some downfalls. You will fall down, but you gotta get up. You still pursue what is it that you want to do, and look at how you can change things in approaching that particular plan.
So just to make it a bit concrete, in your situation, what is that plan for you?
What is that plan for me? So as I told you, when I speak of this plan, it's a very it's very deep, and it somehow is related to the religion and everything else. So I don't want to go into the details of it, but I'll just give you perhaps something which is not as deep into it, but something which is like a precursor, like a worldly precursor to reaching that place. Okay, so they're not really options per se, but they're prerequisites in achieving the goals that I want to. So one of the goals,
prerequisites into achieving the goals that you want to.
Okay. Yeah. So for example, I want to reach a place where, inshallah, I can keep my parents happy. That's one of the goals. Like I want to make them, my dad has been, he's now quite old and he's been working for so many years. Well, not really working. He has his business, but still, as part of the business, he has to do his day-to-day stuff. So I want him to be relaxed and be at a place where he's just sitting at home and enjoying and doing what he wants to do other than business, and be completely just free of the business thoughts and all these things. And same goes for my mom. My mom, like, she's a housewife and she works at home, and she's always worked up on managing things at home, blah blah blah. So let's say that's the end goal that I want to reach. So to reach that point, I have a few, okay, let's just use the word options to make things simple. I have a few options. I don't mind which option gets selected in my life. So in that sense, I don't really have a backup. Do you get the concept?
Okay, wait, let me just repeat that. So, with that as your goal, you don't mind which option takes you there as long as you get there in the end.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So if you still want to get an answer that I feel like you want an answer that's like, okay, in those options, if one option fails, what do you do? You're looking for something like that.
I think I've just been approaching it in the sense like, like pros and cons, trying to figure out what's best.
Yeah.
It's like what's the best thing to do. But I think what happens is that I get emotionally attached to some of these options, right? And like what you said, I'm not putting 200% into one of them. So I guess, in a way, it's like it almost doesn't matter what the options are as long as it's like I have to make an option work for me. If I only have one option, I have to make that option choose for me. Or I have to make that option work for me. I mean, so okay, so yeah, that's kind of like a similar way to the way I think about marriage. It's like you have so many women to choose from, right? You have to make that one work for you.
Yes, yes, yes. So all in all, Zarif, if you still are looking for an answer about the backup and all, I don't really have, because I don't really have that concept. But if you want to look at it from a perspective of backup and options and these things, then I do have option 1, 2, 3 like this. But for me,
Yeah.
they're all simultaneous. If one fails, then I have another simultaneous option.
Okay.
So for me, everything works. That's how it is. Like, I'm not going to be sad that I don't become a process engineer.
Sorry, this is a funny way to put it. Okay.
Yeah.
I think I get what you mean. As long as you reach that goal in the end,
Yes. Yes.
which isn't dependent on what career path you take in the end anyway. Okay, I'm gonna try and adopt that way of thinking in it all.
Have you ever taken a personality test?
I have. I don't know how accurate it was. I've
They,
taken the.
they're to some extent they're actually to a large extent actually they say a lot about you. Try to do different personality tests, like not just one particular website. There are different websites, and mix and match and compare them and see.
Why do you ask this all of a sudden?
I ask this because when you understand your personality, you make better decisions at these options that you are speaking about.
Based on like the just based on text from a personality test. You get what I mean? No,
The reason why I've said this is because when you speak of those options, when you know who you are, when you know what kind of person you are, you start to look for things that you can do, or jobs that you can do, or perhaps businesses that you can start, which define who you are. And then you find passion in it, and then you're more interested in it, and you find that satisfaction that you're looking for. But when you don't know your personality, you don't know who you are, and you're just blankly looking at options, and you're doing the pros and cons weighing and all these things, you still don't make the right decision. And then when you make it to an option, few years down the line, or even few months down the line, you realize that you're not really enjoying this. And the reason is because we tend to forget the underlying factors which are more important, which is what kind of person are you? Like, for example, maybe your personality is of the sort that you don't really care if people appreciate you or not. As long as you're giving back to them, you feel that's more important. Whereas for me, I might be the kind of person that I need that boost, I need that dose of appreciation from people to be able to work in a team, to be able to give back more, to be able to add value. So I would not really get into a job which does not give me that. I would not really get into an environment that does not give me that. Whereas for you, it doesn't matter. So you would really choose that job where you get what you want, and that's not your personality. So this is something you might want to think about, because that really helped me to shape into what I really want to do and what options to go for.
Do you have anyone in specific that you'd recommend?
Sorry?
Do you have any test in specific that you'd recommend?
So the famous one is a 16 personality test. and then
This is the breaks one, I think. So.
I think so. I'm not. I've done this a long time before, and I've
Mm.
also done these self-assessment tests on companies' websites. They're very discreet, and you don't find them on websites generally. Even if you find them, they're not very accurate. So how I got them is when I did my interviews, not really interviews, but before my interview, I had to take online assessments, which speak about my personality. It speaks about how I work, what's my working style. And they kind of judge you based on your answers and how you kind of there's like a multiple choice
Yeah.
thing, and then there's like you need to find some patterns, you need to answer some questions, you need to rate certain qualities that you look for in what you're doing. So I've done multiple tests like this. Like for example, some companies where I did it was Shell. um, then there's Proctors and Gamble, something along the lines of that. So there are a few companies which are well reputed, and I think they wouldn't have these tests without proper credible system, you know. So I can rely on them to some extent. Of course, I can't really blindly follow whatever that computer is generating in terms of my personality, but I can relate with a lot of things. So all of this plus the personality tests that I've done have really helped me understand who I am and what I want. And based on this, if something fits that, I would apply for it. If it really doesn't, well, I can apply for it as a desperate option, but I wouldn't really be looking forward to getting an offer anyway.
I think my I have a reluctance towards personality tests because maybe it's like naive, but it's like I would like to discover myself by myself. I don't need a test to tell me who I am. Well, of course there is science behind it. So maybe it would be useful, and that leaves me something to think about.
At the end of the day, you are discovering yourself, because when you read those comments, you read the feedback you get, you don't really blindly follow them. You try to relate to them. Oh, am I really like this? What have I really done? And you start reflecting, and that's when you discover actually this makes sense. If it says that I'm a very let's say I get pissed off when I'm working in a team and somebody does not give the equivalent amount of effort that I'm putting into the entire project. Let's just say this is what the test has told me. So then I start reflecting, last year when I was doing my DPX, this and this happened. And why did this happen? And I start to relate, really that I start to discover actually, yeah, things do make sense. But then let's say it says that one of the tests says that I'm not I'm not a very ethical person. Let's just say that I would make a wrong decision, and then I would blame it on a coworker. Let's just say the personality test has given me this reply. I know this is not true. Well, I'm not boasting or I'm bragging, but I wouldn't do that. So then I know that this doesn't really apply to me. So you have to discover yourself still at the end of the day, and you don't just validate everything that you read.
It's only generalizations, I guess, but even then, you will find some things that are true that I think you can kind of internalize. Wait, okay, I wanted to go back to, how you said your goals, right? You have these goals, and it almost doesn't matter which path you go on that takes you to those goals, as long as you get to those goals. I'm just I think that's I really want to know more about that, as in what. I mean, I think you mentioned that your goal was basically to make your parents happy at the end of the day, right? It's what other things could there be? I mean, other than the obvious, getting to Jannah. So I'm just thinking, I probably need to start changing my perspective on what success actually means, So yeah, what other things could there be?
What I would say is every person has their own vision board, and it's nice to have a vision board that is written. It might not be something that people do often, but I've seen some benefits, some kind of long-term benefits, and you could say short-term benefits. One of the long-term benefits is that when you have a vision board that's written down, perhaps in your notepad or you've written it down in a book, and you go through them every once in a while, you keep reminding yourself of what's more important to you, and you keep reminding yourself of, and at the same time, along along uh, along the path of writing your vision boards, you might actually cross some off. You don't have to wait like 10 years, 20 years to reach that vision of yours, or
Yeah.
that particular goal of yours. You might actually, let's just say, like, you have, let's say Zarif wants to be a traveler, 10 years down the line. Okay, so now the word traveler is quite generic. You might want to be a traveler who travels in Asia, who perhaps wants to go all around the world, or you might be having specific countries that you want to explore, right? So then you create a list of those countries. And who knows, you might have visited some of the countries before already. So you then start ticking them off.
Mm.
So having a vision board really organizes your thoughts, and kind of like helps you to cut off what you've already done, what you're already doing, and also at the same time, like I told you, it reminds you of where you're heading. Some people might be having the vision board of, let's say, they want to memorize Quran, or um, they want to finish engineering and then they do a degree in Islamic law, or something, whatever they want. It's up to them, and perhaps they've already taken some steps to reach that goal. They can start ticking them off the list, and it kind of also rewards you while you're ticking it off, because it shows you progress.
Yeah.
So
And then even then your vision board can change, right? You don't have to have the same goals at
yes,
all.
yes, they might change. You can have worldly goals, you can have non-worldly goals, spiritual goals. So over time you might realize, okay, this weighs more for me, so let me just cut down some from the worldly list, and so on and
Yeah.
so forth.
Right. Jazakallah khair for this. It's left me quite a lot to think about actually, and I'll probably go about like listening to this again just to get another dose of Jabber's wisdom.
No, no.
Clear, inshallah. Okay, all right. Given that I want to change the topic a little, right? And this is probably something that would be nice to end on. Given the fact that you are just graduated, right?
Yeah.
And I think this is something I asked our previous seniors last year as well.
Mm.
Do you feel like you have gotten everything you wanted out of your bachelor's experience?
You kill me with that question, bro. Uh, um, so you think, what do you think? Like, do you think bachelor's is everything to life that there
No,
is?
no, no. Of course not. But I mean, I'm saying like in those 3 years, are you happy with the things that you did? Are you happy with the experiences that you went through? Are you happy with the person that you became?
Oh, okay, okay. Yes, yes. Okay. Now I get your question.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Well, honestly speaking, I would say that I'm more than happy. I'm not just happy, I'm more than happy. In those 4 years, actually, not three. I did
4 years.
foundation as well, right? So um, that still counts. So those 4 years, yes, I'm very, very happy that those 4 years, whatever I did and whatever I accomplished, it really did change me a lot. Because environment plays a very, very, very huge role in shaping who you are, in developing your personality, in developing you as a person. And at the same time, it affects your thoughts, how you think. I don't think the same way I used to think 4 years ago. That's for sure. That's for sure. If you spoke to me 4 years ago, besides the fact that I was less mature, I wouldn't be buying these thoughts or I wouldn't be buying these statements that goals in life and options and these things. Like for me, I would probably be more practical, and I would be more logical in every approach that I want to every approach that I make. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't be logical or practical, but I'm saying that to some extent you have a a reliance of God a reliance on God, and at the same time some spiritual understanding behind it. And over the years, I think that is what has become a strong point of mine, because I've seen results that, of course, only I know, and that only came with allowing that to happen to me.
Mm. Hello, can you hear me?
So
Sorry, go on.
yeah, so the fact that I came to, by the way, I didn't want to come to Malaysia at first, and
Mm.
it's a very nice country. It's a beautiful country, but um, in my community, it's not really a country that comes in your mind first when you want to go for education or you want to get a bachelor's. So everybody was against the idea of going to Malaysia, and it kind of the thought kind of got instilled in me as well that yeah, US, Canada, these are the countries I should look for.
Mm.
These are the places that people go often to get their graduate degrees and all that. So I started applying to US, and I even applied to China. Thank God I didn't go to any of those countries. So I did, and I applied, and didn't work out, and I came to Malaysia as a backup. So the entire decision of coming to Malaysia was not a really happy decision for me, but I still came as a backup, and because I was stressed in life and I didn't know whether I want to waste more time, so I came. And without a shun of a doubt, it was the best decision of my life. And alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, I'm very grateful to God that I've come here, because those 3 to 4 years, 4 years, have really, really changed me in a lot of different ways. And it's not just the academics that matter the most, because I now have values and I'm equipped with skills which I wouldn't have had if I stayed in a place where I was surrounded with my family, or perhaps a non-Islamic surrounding, or even the group of people, the peers, the friends. So, long story short, yes, I'm more than happy that the 4 years have gone the way that it has.
I think that's beautiful to hear, because like I've asked this a few times in the past, and I've gotten like, man, I should have done more. um,
To be fair with you, that's a very ambitious thought, to always say that I should have done more.
yeah,
Every
yeah,
once in a while, I do get those thoughts as well. 3 years, 4 years, I didn't really do much. I should have done more. I should have explored more. But when all of those ambitions, I mean, when I keep them aside, actually, if I reflect, I've done a lot as well, and I have to give credit to myself for it. Sometimes we sometimes just look at we want to be more ambitious, we want to be more motivated, so we be like, oh, I should have done that. But sometimes it's good to just relax, take a step back, and reflect on what you did, and actually you did a lot, and you kind of pat yourself and say, man, you did it. Coming to a country where you don't know anyone,
yeah.
making it to the campus from the airport the first day was a huge experience for me. I was so scared, man. I was super scared.
So you feel like you're happy with your time here. Like you can safely like flip a page in your book and say like, I'm happy with that chapter.
Definitely.
It's a nice chapter. MashaAllah.
300%.
And now a new one has got to be started. You have no so you have no regrets then? Nothing that you wish you would have done?
I do have a few regrets, but someone really told me this, that when you, okay, so if I say this again, the topic keeps going back to a very serious tone.
Don't worry.
And
Fine.
it keeps going back to the entire topic of religion and all that. But someone told me, like, and I came across this hadith as well, that when you think about your regrets, you open a door for shaitan and evil, basically. So if I had done this, if that word "if" is very problematic. But without a doubt, like, I do have a few regrets, especially in my foundation year. I wasn't as productive with my time. I was doing all kinds of things. I became less extroverted over time, which is also something that falls under the list of regrets. I feel like I became more ambiverted. I think that's the word. I became more ambiverted. So I'm not an introverted person, but I became more ambiverted. And in some ways, it is not the best thing, because extroversion is it kind of when you're very extroverted and you kind of try to become less extroverted over time, and then you're in situations where you need to be extroverted, you start feeling awkward and you feel uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And then you tell yourself, hey, I would be comfortable doing this before, but now it feels a little out of place. It feels a little awkward. Why am I not comfortable with it? So in that sense, coming from a person who was very extroverted to becoming ambiverted, I feel that is definitely one of the things that I regret. But I think it can change. It has room for change. It can change back to, it can change whenever I want it to, I believe. Yeah.
All right, bro. I think that's probably a good place to wrap up. I think if there's one thing that I got from this, it's just seeing someone that has managed to, in one sense, you're only like, how old are you again? 20.
I am 22.
22. Only a year older than me, but has sort of reached this level of contentment, not only in the worldly life, but just putting in perspective in terms of that everything is in the hands of Allah, right?
Alhamdulillah, yes.
It's really comforting almost to see someone is like, okay, maybe so it's affected me in the way that maybe I need to kind of reassess the way I think about things almost, and like, be chill with things every once in a while. It goes a lot. Yeah, it's not that I say that I don't have trust in Allah, because like, of course not. But it's like I need to have more trust in Him, I think. And I think one of the reasons that I get so anxious about when it comes to like making decisions, and I felt the same way about when I started university as well, is like part of that is because I don't have enough trust in Allah, and I think I should realize that, and what is best will come to be.
Inshallah.
So speaking to you has come with a lot of realizations and a lot of I need to think a lot about the way I make decisions, and it's basically not think about things as if they were failing, as if a certain option failed, but rather it's just something else, another option towards the greater goal. But for me now, I just need to think about what that greater goal could be for me.
And you will. I'm very positive about you. Because from the time I've met you, I can tell for sure you're, number one, I will say is you're a very charismatic person. And I don't know if you realize that. A lot of times we dwell on our weaknesses, and I don't know if you've heard this, but in interviews, they usually ask you, what's your name, one of your strengths and one of your weaknesses. So we can list a whole list of our weaknesses, but we don't really dwell on our strengths. So take this from me, man. You're very charismatic, and you're somebody who will figure it out, inshallah. And you're somebody who knows things at his age that perhaps a lot of other people don't bother really digging into. So give yourself credit for that as well. And
like you said, yeah.
And yeah, it was nice, Wallahi. Thank you for this opportunity.
No worries, bro. But just to wrap up, when it comes to your perspective in like making decisions, how would you distill it into like a few sentences? As in, like, would it be accurate to say, explore your options, but know that ultimately it is in the hands of Allah, and don't get too attached to any of them?
Yes, 100%. You've taken the words right out of my mouth. But just to put it in another way, which is a verse from the Quran as well. I don't know if this is the exact translation, but I'll try to remember as much as possible, which is you plan, or perhaps they plan, and Allah plans. And Allah's plan is the best of the plans. So this particular translation of the verse is what I try to keep in mind. And it kind of summarizes everything in this context. So 100% what you've said is this entire summary of what I was trying to tell you. So I'm glad that you got the point.
Fair. All right, bro. I think that's a beautiful place to end off. Jazakallah khair again. Thank you for making that time. given the fact that you're leaving in like a month, right? I'll probably, inshallah, I'll be able to come to campus at some point. Hopefully, inshallah, and
Inshallah,
or
inshallah.
maybe we can even meet up outside of campus with all the brothers.
We can, honestly.
Yeah,
Why
fair.
not?
Inshallah. All right, jazakallah khair, bro. Take care. Speak to you soon. Assalamu
Yalla,
alaikum.
assalamu alaikum, bro.